There was recently quite a news story that came out of Massachusetts that shook up so many parents all across this country, many of us who aren't even parents. It was a story about a dance at the Boys and Girls Club in Woburn, and it turned into a frightening ordeal when 14 eighth graders overdosed on handfuls of prescription drugs called baclofen. The children were hospitalized, 13 of them were, 10 of them in critical condition, some of them near death. Some of the children had swallowed as many as 20 or 30 of the pills, which are prescribed for muscle spasms. Now, the impact of that night spread quickly, far beyond Woburn, all across this nation, as parents across the country started to ask themselves, my goodness, could this happen to my child? Could my child do that? Well, one parent who was very worried is a mother joining us now from Los Angeles. This is Debbie. She's a mom who's struggling to deal with her 16-year-old son, as many mothers in this nation are. This is Brandon. And Brandon, I understand that Mom was real concerned when she read that story, like so many other mothers, because she's got a problem with some of the drugs that you're using, right?
Yeah.
What's going on in the house, Debbie? Just tell me what this did to you. I know this is a tough one, Debbie, and you know something? There are mothers and children who clamor on planes to come to this big old strange city to sit right there because they care about their kids and they love them. And I promise you this hour we will make some kind of difference for you and your son.
Take your time. I can talk it out.
Take your time. I'm right here with you.
You know, well, the last couple years, I've had problems with Brandon running away, and just about a year ago, I think he started doing drugs, and he drinks, and he's not only just smoking pot, he's smoking speed, and running away a lot, you know, a lot, filing missing persons reports at the police station all the time. And last week, I have a friend in church, and she just said, you know, you got to do something. Mm-hmm. And I've listened to people say, you know, tough love, you got to let them go on the street. You got to let them do what they want until they hit rock bottom, and then they'll be home. You know, that let them do it the hard way.
And what do you think when people tell you that? Just let your son go out in the street and do those drugs, and when he hits a rock bottom, he'll learn.
You know, I wasn't sure. I've listened to so many different people, and last week I was on the phone with hotlines everywhere, and I spoke to one lady out in Costa Mesa, and she said, you know what, I don't know who you're talking to. This must be people from the old tough love, you know, whatever. And she said, if you let a kid go out there and this day and time and hit rock bottom, you're going to be burying them. Mm. And
that's your biggest fear, isn't it?
You know, yeah, because they don't even know what they're doing. You know, God forbid, I used to be a drug addict, you know. I'm born again Christian, my boys are, 4 years now, and I know what it's like. And he knows I used to do the drugs, and I just don't, and you don't know what drugs you're getting, mm-hmm. You know, you don't know if...
Well, drugs these days are very different than the ones,
That's
I think,
right.
back when you were your son's age. Brandon, talk to me a little bit here, man, because your mom's worried. I mean, I think you know what her biggest worry is, that she's going to be burying you 6 feet under when she wants you to stand as a 6-foot-tall good man.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit. What's going on?
I don't do drugs just to be cool. I do it because I want to forget about my problems. Because I got a lot of problems I got to worry about.
Mm-hmm. Now listen, I hear a lot of sucking of the teeth back there, and then I see some people shaking their head because they've been there before. This is this one young man's experience. And let's don't judge him before we hear his story. So what is it that's going on, Brandon? Because, you know something, that is why a lot of people do drugs. It is why a lot of people drink. It is why a lot of people do things that are crazy, because they're trying to deaden some kind of difficulty. What are the difficulties you find yourself going to that makes you turn to drugs?
Well, when I was like 12 or 13, my mom pulled me into my house and told me that my dad that raised me for like 13 years wasn't my biological father. Mm-hmm. And plus, like, just gangs. People want to kill me in Hawthorne, LA, and Ontario.
Let's go back before we get to the gangs, because a lot of times we are dealing with what goes on in our own house before we deal with what's going on in the streets. What did that do to you when you found out that this father, I mean, here you are, a teenage boy, about to go into puberty, you're about to become a young man, and then you find out, boom, that everything that you thought that you had in a father was not real. What does that do to a young man when those types of things happen to his life?
It hurts him, I guess. It destroys his mentality.
Makes you feel like you were lied to all your life, right? You deal with trust issues. So why don't you tell your mom, because it's real important during this hour, that y'all talk real honestly and that you listen real honestly. Can you just look at your mom, as we often do? It may feel corny. Believe me, it feels a little corny at first, but that's okay. It's something different. Tell her what that does to you.
I don't know. I don't know what it does to me.
I know you were hurt. I know
It made me
you.
feel like crap.
I know you were really hurt. I know. You know, you don't. You don't know. It's hard to be a parent. Hard to know. There's no classes, and you don't know sometimes the rights and the wrongs, the things to do. And now, I mean, you can't go back. You know, but you have to be honest with your children. You do. You have to, from as little as they can understand. You know. And I'm sorry that we weren't. I know he loves that man to this day. I mean, this is going to sound funny, but I have feet just like Dad, you know. And he still loves the man, and he's in his life, but it's just hard. And he has a little brother, Cameron, who's 9 years old, and
Who's looking up to Brandon to make the right decisions.
He is, and he's very worried about Brandon. Last week, and I know Brandon is selling drugs too. I don't know how much. I know.
Well, I think it probably is a lot if Brandon was telling the truth about these gangs being after him. That's stone cold involved in some kind of illicit activity, right, Brandon?
Yeah.
So I get the impression you might be a little scared for your own life yourself. So are you here to do what? What made you decide to come with Mom on that plane? Because y'all made this decision just last week. What made you decide to make, you know something, which could be the most courageous thing you've done in your short life, to come here today?
I don't know.
And we're going to let you think about it. I think it was very interesting that Brandon told our producers that we deal with consequences of what our parents do. So many times we don't know what we're doing to our kids, but if it is affecting their mindset, the way they feel about themselves, it's going to affect the decisions they make for themselves. How did 14 supervised children, those supervised children, these were children who were mostly honor students, how did they end up, getting back to that story that affected Debbie and so many others, the story from Massachusetts, how did those kids end up in a hospital emergency room, some of them clinging to life back in February, all because of a drug overdose? We're going to take a look during this hour at the epidemic of not only drug abuse among teens, but some other very difficult issues that they're faced with these days. Surviving high school, that can be the first toughest lesson of life. And that's what we're talking about today on Rolonda.